If we do go to war in the future, they'll look very different from the ones that we have right now. We'll even have wars in the space. We'll call them space wars. In this episode of It's Different in Future, let's talk about the kind of wars or warfare in the future. In the future, wars will be fought with very little or no human intervention at all. We do have unmanned aerial vehicles already patrolling our skies, providing us information back from the battlefield and also helping us provide a proper defensive net or a grid around our airspace without human intervention. But the drones of the future will be able to perform these tasks on their own. These drones can come back and recharge themselves while another group of drones can take their place. These drones can also be armed by explosives which they can drop, or these drones can perform kamikaze attacks. These are going to be precision point attacks which are going to be quite deadly. These drones will not just help create a defensive net in the airspace, but on the ground they'll help provide support for infantry people who are in a hostile environment. But these are mechanical drones. How about using a live organism as a drone? Scientists are already experimenting where they can use beetles for surveillancing an area. Now, this is currently at a development stage, but once developed, you'll be able to spy on an enemy with an insect. For the longest time, tanks have been used as battering rams to punch through to enemies' defenses and to get to their objectives. But in the future, that is going to change. Our current generation of tanks are very heavy and they're bulky, because of which they don't have much advantage when it comes to speed or how they maneuver on the ground. But the next generation of tanks, or our future tanks, will be much more smaller, sleeker, and will have advanced armor which, though light, will provide the protection of our current generation of tanks or even better. Apart from that, they'll also have advanced cloaking technology which will hide them not just from the thermal imaging of the other enemy tanks, but also the infantry on the ground. These tanks of the future will also carry nuclear power warheads, making them highly effective and deadly in the battlefield. Basically, one future tank can go against one entire or multiple battalions of a tank. Along with the advanced offensive technology that the future tank will have on board, there'll be also defensive technologies on board which will help the tank protect itself from threats on ground as well as from the air. Guns of the future. We are already developing and trying to perfect railguns. Railguns are able to fire a projectile without the use of a gunpowder, because of which it's easier to store the ammunition required for railguns. Currently, we are testing this at high seas because the railguns are quite heavy and bulky in nature, but in the future these railguns will be able to fit in a pocket. Hence, infantries will be able to carry these weapons on them, which will be lighter. Even the ammunition that will be required to fire these weapons will be quite portable, because of which the infantrymen or our army people will have to carry less load and can also carry much more ammunition if required. But what if we are able to eliminate projectiles altogether and use something else instead? What if we are able to use a laser powered gun? We do have laser weapons which are being tested on field right now, but because of their size and bulk, they are currently being mounted on vehicles. The weapons of the future can be holstered on your belt directly and can be fired upon. These weapons are gonna look straight out of a sci-fi movies, much like Star Wars movies where you have laser weapons being used and they look kind of cool, but they might just pack a deadly punch. Our future army men. Our current generation of army personnel have to go through thousands of combinations with respect to what gear they need to carry to correspond to mission objectives. But in the future, these things will not be relevant. In the future, our soldiers will have access to something called as a nanosuit. If you have played the game Crisis as I have, you'll be fascinated to see what a future soldier might look like. Soldiers of the future will have access to these advanced suits which will help them get superhuman strength, will also help them protect themselves against enemy fire, and also have cloaking abilities, because of which they can stay hidden from other infantrymen or even surveillance systems. Navies of the future. Currently, submarines are the most technologically advanced weapons available to the Navy. However, they do have the limitations. They have to stay submerged in order to be effective. They also have limitations with respect to the payload or the weapons that they carry, and also the amount of personnel that they can house. But submarines of the future will not have this limitation, is because they'll have much more advanced stealth technology which will help keep them hidden irrespective of their size. And because there's no size limitation, these naval submarines of the future can be as large as the aircraft carriers that we have right now. And Since they are this large, they'll be able to house aircrafts on their own and will be able to deploy aircrafts after being staying submerged for a long period of time. These capabilities of the future submarines will provide an extra edge to the navies of the future. Future space wars. These will be wars that countries will wage against each other for getting a small piece of land or even getting access to a resource which will be present on a distant planet. We already are on a space crunch and resource crunch on planet Earth, because of which getting to these planets for the resources will be very important. And most of the countries who are now developing space technologies will be competing and in the future fighting for these resources. But what if I don't need a tank in the future? What if I don't need an army in the future? What if I don't need a UAV or a drone? What if sitting in one room and a couple of clicks I'm able to disable an entire army? That's what a war or cyber war in future will look like, and this is probably the most feared form of war. Most of the modern technologies of the future will rely on connected tech, and because of which being able to hack these technologies, gain access and even use these technologies against your enemy is going to be a priority. Because of which many countries are silently investing in developing these technologies or cyber technologies which will help prevent such attacks and even countermeasures and offensive methods how they can attack other nations and gain access to information. Information which is vital, even information against critical individuals can change the course of war. Hence, cyber warfare might just be one of the most crucial forms of warfare of the future. This is Aurelius from Mashable India signing off. Hey, by the way, if you guys have any ideas on what a future war might look like, do leave us a comment.